One of the tasks needed to complete the coffee cup comparison lab is to complete a spreadsheet that analyzes all of the class data, which you can see here, and perhaps make a graph of it, both to go inside of your lab report. Many of you have already gone a long way with this. However, we can take a look at completing a spreadsheet like this for your purposes if you still need a little bit of help. It'll be helpful to have statistics which allow you to calculate the heat loss rate, the rate at which temperature goes down in degrees per minute, which is shown in row 32 here of the spreadsheet. And to do that, we're going to need some information up above. For example, we'll need the maximum value, which is calculated by typing equals and the command max. You need to open up the parentheses, and you should highlight the entire column of data, which is from B3 to B27, and if you hit enter, it'll tell you that your maximum value is 77. At least in this set of data. You may have different. The same goes for min, equals min, open parentheses, and we can put in that same B3 colon B27, close those parentheses and hit enter. The range is the difference between the max and min, so we simply tell it that we want to calculate it by hitting equals, and we click on the maximum number, hit enter. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Click equals, click on the maximum number, a minus sign, and then the minimum number. So it should read equals B28 minus B29, hit enter, and that'll give us the difference. Finally, we need the count of measurements, but because we don't start at minute 0, we start at minute 1, we have to have one less than the count of measurements. So you can see that there are 21 measurements here. So to calculate the count, we're going to type equals, put in the value or the command count and a parentheses. We'll highlight the entire row, once again B3 to B27, which you can see here, close the parentheses, and then put on a minus 1, and that's to subtract for the fact that we did not start at minute 0. Hitting enter, you'll get 20. There were 20 minutes that elapsed from the first minute to the last minute. Now the heat loss rate is simply the ratio between the range, which is the number of degrees that were lost, and the time that it took to lose them, which is in count minus 1. So if we start here in cell B32 and type the equal sign, we can click on the number of degrees that were lost and a backslash for division, and the number of minutes it took, and hit enter, and that's 1.45 degrees per minute. That's a pretty important value, so make sure that comes up perhaps bold. I'll give it a little different color. I think most of the spreadsheets should do this automatically, but I'm going to throw it in here and make it look real nice. Now you might be asking, well, what do I have to do to get all the rest of this done? Well, you can copy all of these formulas. You'll notice that I've copied B28, B29, B30, B31, and B32. I'm just going to right click on them and pick copy. And then I can just paste those formulas in right across the spreadsheet. And again, I'll right click and paste. Chromebook may need you to do it a little differently, but you get the idea. It'll be nice to clean up some of this stuff, so let's take all of these values here, which are the max, min, range, and count, and we'll get rid of some of the extraneous decimal points. We can center them. That looks a little nicer. And then let's take that heat loss in degrees per minute and do the same thing. We'll highlight all of them. We'll get rid of some of the extra decimal points. Maybe 2 decimal points will look good. And make certain that everything is centered top and bottom by using the centering tools, which are located up in here. If you lose some of the borders on your table, just go back and put a nice heavy border around the outside of the table. I find that sometimes when I copy formulas that happens. Click on the border tool, make sure you're using a heavy line, and just tell it that you want to go and fix the outer border only in order to clean that up. And you've got a pretty terrific looking data table. Remember, all the classes had different data. Your class might not be the one I'm looking at here, so you might have slightly different results, but I'm looking to see that you've programmed in the formulas that calculate these values. Don't just type in numbers. All right, now how do you make a graph from all of this? Well, it'd be useful to graph the data of time versus all of these variables. So what you're going to do is you're going to highlight this entire table like so. Do not highlight the summary statistics that are down below here. Just highlight the data and go on up and insert a chart. It should default to a chart that shows all of these lines, but I think it's nice to throw in a scatter plot, which is what we've been using. And you can actually now pop in here and begin to do things with each of these data ranges. Once you have this, you can, first of all, it's a terrible title. Let's put on something appropriate like Cup Performance Comparison. I like that. It looks like I spelled performance wrong. We'll let that fix it up. And I'll just put 8 cup, make that correct, 8 cup temperature test. That's a nice title. Cup performance comparison. The time in minutes looks great. We got all of these different labels here, so it says what the cups are, which is real nice, okay? And let's see, what else do we have? We need a label on this side of the graph, so we can go to chart axis and titles, and we can tell it that we don't want to change the title. We want to do the vertical axis title. There is no vertical axis title, so there we go. And if I click right in here, I can put in, let's see, that should be degrees, or temperature is what it should be, right? I should go and type temperature, so I think I'll do that. Temperature. And then in parentheses, I'll put degrees Celsius. All right, let's see how that, yeah, that looks great. That looks like a proper graph. I think for all those series, we probably ought to add some trend lines. So there they all are. Everybody gets a nice trend line. I don't think we want to do any of these error bars or any other things, but I do notice that some of these circles are pretty big, and it probably makes it harder to see. If we use slightly smaller circles, we can see the differences between the data just a little bit, and that might be kind of nice. Now, another trick you can do, which might make your graph a little bit more easy to read, is notice that we're going from 0 degrees up to 80, but we really don't have any temperatures above, I don't know, maybe none above 30. And if we reduce this axis to run from 30 to 80, it'll expand out all of these different plots. So to do that, you want to close out series, and we want to take a look at the vertical axis. So click that in the chart editor. Click, okay. And let's give it a minimum value of 30. And we'll give it a maximum value of 80, just like it has on the graph now. And when we do that, let's see how that looks. Oh yeah. All right, that's spread those lines out a little bit, made them just a little bit easier to see, as you can tell, because we don't have any of those lower numbers that aren't doing us any good at all. That makes a pretty nice looking graph for evaluating the differences. I'm going to close the chart editor. We can make the graph slightly larger, which again helps you to see it. And if you want to copy this into and paste it into your document, which I think you should, if you click on the 3 dots up here, you can choose the copy chart function like this, and then you can transfer it over and paste it into your lab report. All right. I'm going to slide this out of the way and just remind you that if you want to paste this table into your lab report, which I strongly recommend you do, you're going to need to highlight the entire table like so. And then again, you're just going to right-click copy, and that'll paste in just fine. All right, that's all we have today for finishing up the class data graph. Best of luck.